Let me first of all start with perhaps just a little story to put this in perspective. This last week we celebrated, celebrated is not the right word, we acknowledged the 3-year anniversary of the invasion of Ukraine. And as it turns out, the European Union had invited me and a couple of my Republican colleagues to Europe because they wanted to show us what they were doing on climate. And so me and a couple of the Republicans went over there, and they started the week with this, I'll say, almost arrogance of how excited they were and how far ahead they were of the United States in their pursuit of clean. Happened to be 2 days before Russia invaded Ukraine. And we were there all week. We were there 2 days before the invasion. We were there the day of the invasion. And we were there 2 days after the invasion. And what we saw was a continent who had sacrificed affordability, had sacrificed reliability, and their national security so that they could be clean. And the whole purpose of the caucus that we founded was to point out the false narrative that we have to give up affordability, we have to give up reliability, we have to give up national security to be clean. That was before I really knew or understood geothermal. Now, many of us think of geothermal, we think of Iceland. We don't think of Utah, we don't think of Texas, we don't think of the United States. But I'm fortunate to be from a state who realizes the vast potential of this, and I've had a chance to be boots on the ground and see how this works. And what we have is an energy source that's reliable, that's affordable, and clean. What's not to like, right, about geothermal? And I've made the prediction that when we get to 2050, we will look back and not realize at the time in today's world in 2050 what will have delivered us there. And I used to say that before we talked about geothermal. And I'm absolutely convinced in the year 2050, we're going to look back on this and say, thank goodness for geothermal, because it's affordable, it's reliable, and it's clean. It's one of the securities to unlock, one of the secrets to unlock our national security. Now, what is the problem with geothermal? What's holding us back? Well, let's see. It's not the industry that's innovative and creative. It's not the investment market that's ready to invest and go forward. It's not the states who want this in their states. It's not Utah, it's not Texas, it's not the other states. What's left? The federal government, right? And we have a problem. We have a problem that sometimes it's easier to drill for oil and gas than it is for heat. It's easier to do some of these other projects than it is to do geothermal. And my philosophy is really all that we need to do as a federal government is get out of the way of geothermal and let them go do their thing. They're not as reliant as the other energy sources are on subsidies. They're not as reliant as the other energy sources are on forcing the market. The market is ready to go there. And the federal government, we need to get out of the way. Heather mentioned a couple of bills that I've worked on, and that's the GEO Act and the Co-location Energy Act. And both of those are intended to get government out of the way. Geothermal also complies. I'm a conservative, and so I'm going to talk about this, why conservatives like this. It's pro-business. It's driven by private sector ingenuity. It's pro-American workers. Isn't this great? It relies on the same drilling expertise and workforce as the oil and gas industry. It's pro-energy security. It provides always-on, domestically sourced power, reducing our reliance on foreign adversaries. And it's affordable. It keeps energy costs down for hardworking taxpayer families. And it's clean. I've always said that if you look at any energy source, it has an Achilles heel. So what do I mean by that? If you look at renewables, what's the Achilles heel? It's reliability, because we don't yet have storage perfected. I think we'll get there, but as of today, that's a problem. I'll just tell a fun story. I was in Kenya a while ago, and Meg Whitman was the ambassador. I think she still is the ambassador. She was bragging about how Kenya was 95% reliable and businesses should move to Kenya because of that green energy source. 10 minutes into her speech, the lights went out. You knew where that was going, right? The lights went out, and the diesel generators kicked in outside. So I believe we'll get there with renewables, but as of today, it's got that Achilles heel. Nuclear has an Achilles heel. It's expensive. It's affordable, it's reliable, and it's base load. But as of today, I think nuclear will also get there. That cost will come down, and we'll get there. fossil fuels have an Achilles heel. That's the emissions. We've got to work on that. Where we'll get there, direct air capture and carbon sequestration, I too believe we'll get there. But wait a minute, geothermal, there's no Achilles heel. It's affordable, it's reliable, and it's clean, and it's ready today to go. And all we have to do is get the federal government to speed up this process so that all of those who want to go do this can do this and take advantage of the great things that we have here. Well, I'm really excited that Chris Wright is part of this administration. I had a chance to interview him in his nomination process. Here's somebody, quite frankly, that gets affordable, reliable, clean, but also understands you cannot sacrifice U.S. national security to get there, nor do we have to. And I'm pleased that Chris is part of this. Nobody understands geothermal better than Chris Wright. And I think it's a great statement for the Trump administration that we're going to get this right and do this well. Well, I'd like to extend an invitation to all of you to come to Utah and see our Fervo project with geothermal there. It's exciting. I'm told that if we can just get the permitting, there's 2 gigs ready to roll in that part of my state, geothermal. There's another problem, transmission, right? And we've got to figure out transmission. And I put that squarely on my co-workers here in Washington to figure out permitting reform, which includes transmission, so that these projects can roll and be everything that we need them to be. Well, it's a delight to be here with you. And remember, I invite all of you to come back here in 2050 as we look back and say, see, I told you so. Geothermal was a big part of our answer. Thank you very much and have a great conference.